Hello and welcome to Just One More Watch. Welcome to a review of the Orient Curator. Now this is a watch I've had my eye on for some time. I've said on more than one occasion on the channel that I used to own an Orient Bambino. I scratched the Orient Bambino, I sold the Orient Bambino. So this Curator has a strong appeal for me. Sapphire crystal, slightly more robust than its more famous little brother. I should mention this is not my watch. This belongs to Ivan over at Perth WAtch, a fellow Australian YouTuber. If you're not already a subscriber of Ivan's, you should be. The man knows his stuff. He's got a fantastic personal collection and his dive watch comparison video already has 130,000 views. Well worth a look. Big thank you to Ivan for sending me this and an Invicta that I reviewed earlier as well. Alright, enough waffle, let's get into the review. So the Seiko Skx then. Hang on a minute, you just said this was a review of the Orient Curator. What are you doing? Bear with me for a second, this won't take long, I promise. So the Seiko Skx then. Flat, painted dial, hard Lex crystal, not sapphire, a movement that was out of date 15 years ago, and one of the rattliest bracelets known to man, and yet somehow this little watch becomes a legend, so much more than the sum of its parts. The Orient Curator then. Sapphire crystal, sunburst dial, lovely applied indices with heaps of detail. We've even got a power reserve complication at 12 o'clock, in-house movement, and a really decent leather strap. And yet somehow, for me anyway, this watch ends up being less than the sum of its parts. I can't quite put my finger on it, but I'll try and explain myself over the course of the video. So, usual format. Start off with some dimensions and specifications, then I've got a movement accuracy report which is pretty decent, been running this one in the winder for about a month or so. Then I'll pop it on the wrist, pop up a loom shot and get into some subjective analysis with some detailed close-ups as we go. So 41mm in diameter, only 47mm lug to lug though, so it does wear fairly compactly due to that relatively short lug length. It's about 10.5mm thick, so again, not a thick piece on the wrist for an automatic, but it does have 22mm lug widths, which I think perhaps it would have benefited from 20mm, a little bit smaller in keeping with that slightly smaller diameter. This one on the standard leather strap weighs in at 80 grams, so not a heavy watch on the wrist either. 316L stainless steel on the case, not that I even need to mention that these days, and as discussed we do have a piece of sapphire crystal, dead flat sapphire crystal covering the dial. And some really nice details on the dial. We've got applied indices, and if you have a look at them, plenty of detail to them. Little chamfered edges, we've got the double at 12 o'clock there, plenty to catch the light, far more than you'd expect I think detail wise in a piece of this price. Nice date frame around the date window at 3 o'clock there, it's a kind of double edged frame again, nice little bevel there. These Dolphin Hands also have some texture to them, nice little needle second hand just as it should, very simple heading out towards the minute track all the way around, and you've got that complication at the 12 o'clock. Now this is the first watch I have used it for any length with a power reserve indicator. I always thought they would freak me out. It's just like the battery meter on your mobile phone, it's just something else to worry about, but in reality if you've got this on your wrist most of the time then it's always up between 30 and 40, so nothing to worry about. To add to the stresses of life, we've got a nice little semi-applied Orient logo there just above the 6 o'clock. 50 meters water resistance on this one, so combined with the sapphire glass there is a fair degree of practicality and some pretty decent loom. I'll pop up a loom shot there. Yeah, again, better than you'd expect for this type of piece, a kind of dressy type office piece. Plenty on the hands and nice little loom pips around the hour markers as well. What do you not have? Well, you don't have a signed crown. Always a slight disappointment when a brand doesn't sign the crown. I suppose you can't complain too much for $200, but it would have been nice. You do get a signed tang clasp though there, but it's just painted on, it's just printed on, it's not laser etched or anything. So again, could have been nicer, but you can't expect too much. Onto the case back, and pretty much all as it should be. As explained in the intro, this is Ivan, so there's a couple of scuffs on it, but not too many. He's obviously a man who believes in leaving the stickers on his watches as well. And the leather strap itself, well, it's okay. Pretty much just what you're expecting. It's a little bit thick, but nice stitching, genuine leather, kind of faux alligator, faux croc there embossed. So the movement in this one is an Orient 46N40, fairly basic, no hacking, no hand winding. You're again doing the shuffle, the Orient shuffle in this case, to keep this one going, but a decent performance. I'll pop up a watch check app on the left there. I had this one running mostly in the winder for a month or so, coming in at about plus 12 a day average and very consistent with it. Perfectly acceptable for an entry level movement. 40-hour power reserve on this one too. And there it is sitting on top of my 7-inch wrist, and it doesn't look too bad. As I said, relatively short lug length means it conforms to the wrist nicely. 41mm, a pretty decent size for a dress watch. They could have done a touch smaller, I think, but not too bad all in all. And the stiff strap is fairly comfortable though, I will give it that. So what's my problem with the Curator then? Well, I don't know, it's just a little bit lumping. It doesn't quite hang together elegantly in the way that the Bambino does. All polished surfaces, there are a few too many angles for me there. There could have been a little bit of variety perhaps. As mentioned, I think the lug width should really be 20mm, just to bring it down on the wrist. There's no taper in this leather strap either, it's 22 all the way round. The strap's a little bit thick as well, but I think my biggest problem that I have with the Curator is that it's not the Bambino. Having owned a Bambino, it's just such a pretty watch, that lovely domed acrylic crystal, which admittedly is easy to scratch. It's like when you fancy a girl in your class at school, but she's not interested, but her big sister likes you, and her big sister's smarter and taller, but somehow you're not interested in the big sister. You still like the little cute one. And I think that's my problem with the Curator. I've still got a soft spot for the Bambino that this one just hasn't filled. But don't let me put you off. I think for $199 or less, you can find this one a little bit cheaper, I think, as well. It's a great set of specifications for the money. Lovely piece for office wear, if you don't mind that it's a little bit chunkier than its little sister.